Hello, everybody. On today's show, I have on a guest who has overcome sexual abuse, homelessness, and addiction. He has since become an addiction expert with over 35 years' experience using science based holistic treatments. He's currently program director for South Beach Detox and chaplain for the North Miami Police Department. Everybody, welcome John J. Giordano to the show.
All right, we're in.
Welcome to the show, John. How are you?
I'm doing really well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here. This is a wonderful honor for me to have you on the show because you have so much experience in the recovery department and healing addiction, especially with your science-based holistic treatments. I mean, these are the types of things that have healed me and that I have used myself and that I talk about. You have much more experience and much more in-depth knowledge of these things, so it is a great honor to have you on the show.
Well, it's always an honor to give back to God's kids, and that's how I look at it. They gave it to me when I didn't know anybody when I first started, and I'm just following what happened to me and just repeating it.
Well, that's a wonderful thing. So why don't you tell my audience a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, there's a lot of stuff about myself. I really want to get into also. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, but I also want to get into um, how we can help with addiction treatment, which
Perfect.
is not being done. But
Right.
I'm 37, coming up on 37 years of recovery. I'm 75 years old
Congratulations.
tomorrow.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm also a grandmaster in the martial arts, Black Belt Hall of Fame, and all of this
Oh,
kind of five-time national karate champion, all that stuff.
oh, wow.
I do a lot of stuff. I write books. My last book was The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up. It's my life story. And my other one is How to Beat Your Addiction and Live a Quality Life. Um, currently in 70, now it's 77 peer-reviewed medical journals. I work with scientists and researchers and counselors from 25 universities.
Oh,
And the
wow.
reason I went in that direction is because who's going to believe a kid from the South Bronx? I looked at it that way. I only went to the ninth grade. I went back when I got into treatment. I went back and got my GED, and then I went back to school. And I realized that you have to have evidence-based treatments and knowledge in order for people to talk to you. I was homeless when I got into out of treatment. I got divorced. I wound up living in one room that a friend of mine owned a hotel he gave me. I had a bicycle that somebody loaned me, and I had a little bottle I used to put my change in when I had change.
Oh, wow.
So moving forward, going back to school and doing all the things that I did, and I wind up opening up a treatment center. My first treatment center was a hospital-based program, and that was in 1985. I was 14 months clean. Now, I knew nothing about opening up a treatment center. The only thing I knew about treatment was I was in one. And I came up with this idea, and a friend of mine that owned the hotel, I said, look, I got this amazing doctor who's very well known. He wants to open up a treatment center. Well, I didn't tell the truth because I never spoke to the doctor about it. He was my doctor when I went through treatment. But he says, look, how much do you need? So what do I know? I said, $250,000. He said, well, you got it. If you
Oh,
can get my
wow.
doctor. I said, okay. So I went and walked into the doctor's office, and he's always a funny guy. And I said, listen, I got $250,000. How would you like to open up a treatment center, your own? He said, John, I was just thinking about that when you walked in the door. So
Oh,
he was like a
wow.
comedian. So we opened up my first treatment center. I hired a bunch of people from the treatment center that I came through. I didn't know it was unethical to take people from another treatment center. What do I know? I'm a street kid. So what wound up happening was, long story short, I didn't realize the doctor only had 3 years clean, and it wound up not being a good relationship. And people can read about it in my book. I stayed there. Uh, they took the treatment center out from under me, to be honest with you. What
Oh,
wound
wow.
up happening was we couldn't make payroll and we were packed. And my partner that gave me the money said, John, they're stealing. I said, never in a million years. they're in recovery. I got sober to get stupid. So anyway, I went to the doctor and I says, listen, are you stealing? He put his head down. He says he had a sex addiction. And what he was doing was he was buying girls and getting apartments, and we couldn't make payroll.
Oh man.
I hired my therapist that helped me. He didn't like the fact he was working for his client. So long story short, he says, look, if you don't, your partner's stealing, the one to put the money in. I said, how can he steal? He doesn't even have the checkbook. So he said, well, that was a whole lie. And what wound up happening was they kicked me out of the corporation. They said, either you sign off or we'll just put it in a different name and you're not going to have anything. And now here I am. I got my GED. I went to school. I got my 300 hours. Now I need 6,000 hours of supervised training. And where am I going to get that? So I had to swallow my pride and my ego. And they gave me the outpatient clinic, which was, they had 3 clients. And long story short, I made it work. And over 6 years, I finally got out. And I finally gave me my contract after I threatened one of them because I couldn't deal with it anymore. And I left in 3 months after I got my contract. I got $80,000, which was a joke because they were making millions of dollars. I was so happy when I first opened it up. Here I am. I'm 14 months clean. I'm we had a hospital-based program, had 30 beds, and we had 12 beds in psychiatric, and we had a detox program as well. And I'm looking around. I'm going, I can't believe this is happening. And we made it into a holistic program. That was the first because the doctor was into that. Now the doctor was a good guy. He's just, early in recovery, man. That's what happens with people.
Right.
It doesn't matter if they're a doctor, Indian chief, police. It doesn't matter.
Right.
So anyway, I went and my friend, they gave me the money originally, says, look, I have another guy that wants to open up a treatment center. So he says, come here, I help you put together a business plan. I didn't know how to put a business plan together. So I put it together and I went up to West Palm Beach 2 minutes before the meeting. I forgot the business plan. Now what am I going to do? I can't go back. I don't want to go forward. But I went forward anyway. So look, I'm embarrassed to tell you, but I forgot the business plan. So the guy says, I don't care. He threw a napkin at me. He says, tell me what I need to do. See, meanwhile, the last 6 years that I spent in the treatment center, I did everything. I learned every department. I learned everything you can want to know about running a treatment center and putting it together. So I put it down. He says, okay, he gave me the money. I hired I had a sponsor that I hired. That was a good friend of mine. I took him from a hospital. He was making $29,000 a year. I gave him 50, and I gave him a piece of the treatment center. And what wound up happening was I didn't know that the guy that gave me the money was what is known as a corporate raider. And making the same mistake twice, I didn't have a lawyer. I didn't read the contract. I was so excited about doing treatment and putting it together. So after a year, to make it short, he fired me. I said, you can't fire me. I'm your partner. He said, read your contract. So long story short, I was going to throw him through the window, but I figured I shouldn't be able to do that. I'm in recovery. So what wound up happening was I left. I got my box full of my stuff from my desk. I sat on my car and cried. And I couldn't believe that this happened to me again. And it was my fault, not anybody else's, because I needed to get a lawyer. I needed to do it the right way. And I was so wanting to help people, I didn't even look at it. Then I went into, I started with another program. They made me clinical director of this indigent program in the public sector. And it was a 55-bed indigent facility, people with HIV, people that are with comorbidity, they have mental health problems and addiction and HIV. So, but it was an old TC where they put a guy in the middle of the room, they beat him up, and then they bring him back, build him back up again. And I said, look, I don't know about these people, but I didn't need anybody to beat me up. I did a good enough job on my own, beating myself up.
Right.
So I had left there after almost a year, and I said, I can't deal with this anymore. And we used to do stupid stuff like we used to get our food donated, and at 12 o'clock, we used to give the clients chocolate cake and sugar and all kinds of stuff. And of course, half hour later, they're all starting to act out, right? So then we used to take them and put a a sign around the neck and put him on a bench
Hmm.
and shame him. I said, this
Wow.
is ridiculous.
Hmm.
So I left there. Then I opened up I was going out with this woman, and she says, why didn't you open up a treatment center? I said, I want nothing to do with treatment centers. I'll just counsel people. I said, no, do it on your own. I says, I only had $300 because I had a spending edition. I didn't have any money, so I bought everything they could with money. And so I said, I only had $300. I went to my buddy who owned this little tiny 750 square foot building. Um, and I says, look, I'd like to rent that. I, he says, well, how much money do you have? I says, I only got $300. He says, that's okay. Get it going in a few months, then pay me $300 a month. Well, long story short, I got together with one of my friends that I work with at this indigent program. I made him a partner. He says to me, all right, John, where's the books? I says, I don't have any books. He said, well, how do you know where the money's going? They give it to me. I put it in my pocket. They'll pay me. He says, you're crazy. That's not going to happen. So he took care of the business part. Then I had his son who came down, and his son was a genius with the internet. And a long story short, I started it with $300. We were one employee, that was me. Then it was two employees. And in 18 years, I had 147 employees, 7 buildings. And in 2012, we sold it for $45 million.
Oh, wow.
Now, if you would have told me that in the beginning, I probably would have punched you in the face, thinking you're making fun of me.
Yeah.
So, and here I am, a kid that only went to the 9th grade, got a GED. All right, I got all my certifications and all this stuff. I'm lecturing. I write books. I lecture all over the world to neuroscientists. I was in Taipei lecturing at the neuroscience conference to neuroscientists, researchers, psychiatrists. Then I went to Budapest. I was lecturing in Budapest. I lectured to over 200 countries.
Wow.
I've been to Chicago, I've been to Baltimore, New York, California. I lectured all over the planet. And what I lecture about is what they're not doing in treatment.
Yeah, I was just had your website up and I was watching a few videos and I was looking at your blog and you know, you're on Al Jazeera, you're on the local news, all the different stations, several different times talking about these types of things. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about what you bring to the table versus what traditional rehab centers are?
Okay, well, let's look at the model first. The model is based on a 70-year-old model. In 1950, and there's 2 different stories, but the one I got is that there were these two students. One was the one to be a psychiatrist, one that wanted to be a psychologist. They came up with a 28-day model. Now, they had no experience. They just extrapolated out what was going on, and they came up with 28 days. They pitched it to Hazelton. Hazelton pitched it to the insurance companies, and now we have the 28-day model. It was called the Minnesota model. All right, but it was based on alcoholism also.
Hmm.
Big difference with
Right,
drugs.
right.
All right. So I'm sure the audience realizes that one for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And a lot of they do say that alcohol and drugs are the same, and when you go to a rehab, they're treating it as the same, but it is two
no, it's
vastly
different.
different things.
It affects the brain differently. The whole 9 yards. The damage is much more severe. Alcohol usually took time. In the beginning, most of the people that came were 40, 50 years old. Today, they're kids coming in 20, 18, 22.
Right.
It's a shame what's going on.
Yeah.
And so what happened from there is I'm looking at this model, and first of all, 28 days is kind of like a joke, okay? Because look at it this way. Now, we send a person to detox, right? Well, guess what? We shouldn't call it detox, because if you look up the term detox, it means to detoxify, not put other drugs on top of other drugs.
Right.
What we should really be calling these places, even the place I work for, we should be calling them stabilization units. Because
Okay.
what we're doing is stabilizing people. We're not detoxing them.
Right.
All right? Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So now they come out of treatment. They come out of detox. Okay. And now we tell them they're still in a fog. Their brain is still a mess. They don't even know what day it is really. Okay. And we tell them you have to go to treatment. Now they go into treatment. First of all, addicts, we don't trust anybody. So if for us to bond with somebody and to talk to somebody about our deepest secrets that we haven't told anybody, very difficult.
Yes.
Maybe, just maybe in 3 weeks, we clear up a little bit and we bond with a therapist. Maybe. And then the fourth week, we got to leave.
Right.
This is like ridiculous. All right.
Yeah.
The brain's not even online. You just came out a 20-year run, and here you are, a 10-year or 5-year run, and here you are supposed to all of a sudden have it all together.
Right.
Doesn't work. The model that I proposed, okay, and it's based on a model that's already happening, it's been happening, is a 60 to 90-day model that people should be in treatment, depending on the severity of the illness. This way they have time to clear up. This way they have time to set goals, short-term and long-term goals, and start to implement life skills and all these other things that they need for life.
Right.
Putting the drugs and alcohol, believe it or not, I know the public might say different, is the easy part. The hard part is living life on life's terms.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's what us addicts have a problem with.
Right, and doing the 60 to 90 days, letting them integrate back into, being with others who are doing the things that they want to do.
Exactly.
We only learn as humans by experience and by what's in our environment. So if we see people who are doing good, doing things that we want to do, then it gives us sparks of ideas to what we can do for ourselves. And I think that was greatly important what you just said.
Right. Now, there is a 90-day model, and it's for the doctors. It's called the PRN or the IPN for the nurses. It's 90 days. They have to go to treatment. And then a 5-year aftercare program. They have to, every week, they have to come and drop urines. And they have like a 90% success rate.
Wow.
So, and that's all documented. So
that's amazing.
That's looking at that piece. But now let's look at another piece. First of all is this, it's supposed to be a medical model. You always hear that, right? Okay,
Right.
treatment, it's not a medical model. It's a psychological model.
Okay.
If it were a medical model, we would do a comprehensive approach to the person that's coming in. What I mean by that is this. I don't know if you realize, you know what serotonin and dopamine is, right?
Yeah.
Those are the feel-good drugs that we manufacture. The feel-good, that's what we chase when we want to get high.
Right.
You know where they're manufactured?
In our brain.
No.
No. Okay.
No. This is all science. I always tell people, don't believe it when I tell you, check it out for yourself.
Hey,
okay?
I gotcha. Yeah.
It's called the second brain, which is your gut,
Okay.
the microbiome.
Wow, I didn't know that.
That's the flora in your gut. Most people don't know this. All right. So you produce serotonin and dopamine in your gut. It goes up the vagus nerve to your brain and deposits it. That's how the body functions. The gut is the most important part of the body. Why? Because that's where autoimmune diseases are. That's where all kinds of things go on. That's where depression comes from, anxiety comes from. People don't even know this.
Well, yeah,
We're
I didn't
not
know any of
treating
that.
this. I know you don't. Most people don't.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one part. And look it up. You go, oh my God, I didn't realize this. I hear this all the time. I say, well, I'm going to get on a podcast and say stupid stuff. No. Okay.
Right.
So what we're not looking at, okay, if you're predisposed for addiction, there's an addiction gene, right?
Yeah, I've heard about it. I heard some people say it's not a thing, but I heard others say it is a
No,
thing.
but that's baloney. It is a thing.
Right.
I worked with the geneticist who founded the addiction gene in 1976, him and Ernie Noble. Okay, it's Dr. Ken Blum. You can look him up. Okay, he's the geneticist who found the addiction gene. He's in over 800 medical and scientific peer-reviewed journals. They don't put that stuff in journals if it's bullshit and plain. Right? Okay. So if you're genetically predisposed, now that doesn't mean you're going to be an addict. Okay, it means that you have the propensity to become one because there's such a thing as epigenetics. Now, epigenetics means the social environment can change the gene expression. So you may never become an addict or an alcoholic. Okay? So now, what happens when addicts or alcoholics get depression and anxiety? What do? They go really get high.
Yeah, they go back to what they got. Yeah.
Okay. But you know what we're not looking at? Where's the depression and anxiety coming from? Oh, wait a second. It's coming from mommy left you with 3, daddy beat you when you were 10, you're traumatized. That's all true. Okay. But that's only one piece. All right. The
Okay.
body is a whole unit. It's not just the head walking around, because if it is just the head, you send the head to treatment and leave the body home.
Right.
Okay. So, leaky gut syndrome. Okay. H. pylori infection. These are gut issues. Go look them up. All
Right.
right. Cause depression and anxiety. Low testosterone, which a lot of male addicts have. I mean, we did the research in this. We tested them. Blood work doesn't lie. All the
Right.
urines don't, it doesn't lie. All right. So we know the numbers.
Right.
Low testosterone can cause depression and anxiety. Hypoglycemia, which most alcoholics have, okay, causes depression and anxiety. Closed head injuries causes depression, anxiety, and behavioral problems. We know that from football,
Right.
right? Okay. We're not looking at any of that. So let's how about a low thyroid? Low thyroid can cause depression and anxiety. If we're not treating this stuff and just the psychological stuff, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be doomed to repeat.
Yeah. Well, you're hitting me with so much information that I didn't even know about. That there's so much going on in the gut and the whole body, really. Because in my from what I knew, like you said, I didn't even realize that. I just assumed it was only a mental thing because of the way that it's designed. I never even thought of these possibilities,
I
knowing
know.
the gut biome and all these other. I mean, this is just mind blowing things that you're talking about here.
Well, you see, and if they asked me to be a keynote speaker at a neuroscience conference with scientists and researchers and clinicians, they would never ask me to do that if what I'm talking about is bullshit.
Right.
They
Yeah.
come up to me afterwards and go, "Oh my God, we never thought of that. How could you not think of that? How do you treat a person that walks in the door and only look at their head?
Right. Wow. That
Crazy, huh?"
Yeah, it is crazy. And I know that dimethyltryptamine (DMT) is made in our gut biome, and it goes to our brain. I'm not sure if you know what DMT is, but other psychedelics also affect us in that type of way. And I
Well, I
was
don't know if you know this, that I'm one of the leading experts on plant medicine.
Well, yeah, that's what I was getting to. I didn't know that you were one of the leading experts, but that's what I was bringing it to, is how are plant medicines helping people
Okay.
recover from addiction?
Here's the thing. You know what SSRIs are, right?
Yeah. Can you break it down a little bit? I know
Yeah, sure.
kind of what
Okay.
they are.
Serotonin enhancements. They're like Prozac, Zoloft, Wellbutrin.
So the
All of these
doctor feel
drugs that
good medicines,
psychiatrists give people
right?
that come in for depression, bipolar disorder, and so
Okay,
forth. They were only meant for short-term intervention. Okay, that's the history.
right.
But they figured out they can make money with it, these pharmaceutical companies. Now they made it long term. And it's an educated guess. Optimum word, guess.
Mm,
Okay? That's why when you're taking medications, oh, take this. Oh, we got to raise the dosage. Oh, we got to lower the dosage. Oh, you're having this trouble? Here, take this medication to counteract that medication. And sometimes you wind up with 4 or 5 medications, walking around like a zombie and you blow up like a balloon.
yeah, it's a
Okay,
big
because
experiment.
huh?
It's a big experiment. They're
Right,
just testing it out to see what can work.
and we're walking cash registers.
Right.
Okay. Now, I'm not against medication. I want to make that clear. It has its place,
Hmm.
right? Just like I laugh about Suboxone. All right, you're familiar with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Suboxone is buprenorphine and naloxone together. The reason why they put naloxone in there so we don't shoot it up.
Hmm.
Okay, but
Wow.
addicts, I don't know if you ever heard of a cold shot.
No.
Oh, I never heard of it either until I went to a convention. There were a bunch of addicts were all together, and I hear these guys talking about a cold shot. I said, "What the hell is that?" He says, "Well, you can't shoot up Suboxone because of naloxone, but what they do is they pour. This is what the guy told me. I don't know if it works, but this is what they said it does. lemon juice on it, and they put it in the freezer, and they freeze it, and they crack it open, and then they shoot it up.
Oh wow.
I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
we're the most ingenious people I've ever met in my life.
yeah, yeah, very
You know,
creative.
so what the bottom line now, I don't know if you know the history of Suboxone and methadone. You know, methadone was made by the Nazis, right? You know
I
that.
I did not know that, but I'm not
Yes.
surprised by that.
Yeah. And you know, some of the pharmaceutical companies are owned by Nazi families.
Yeah, I
Go
do know
look it
that.
up.
Yeah.
You'll see.
Yeah, most of the pharmaceutical industry came over from Germany in the Nuremberg trials instead of hanging the
Ah,
Nazi
hallelujah. I met
scientists.
somebody that knows this.
The
Great.
Operation Paperclip. Yep.
Okay. So you have to look at in 19, I'm not sure the exact year, maybe 1909, 1910, we had a morphine epidemic that, you know, opium epidemic that the Chinese brought over, that we had them working on the railroads and all this other stuff.
Hmm.
And the doctors got together and everybody got together and the scientists, and they said, oh, we know how to fix that. You know what they fixed it with?
No, I don't.
Heroin.
Okay.
Oh, we know how that worked out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So,
that makes sense that they made something stronger that was more effective to get you off of one thing to another.
right, but you're still in the
Right. Right.
opiate
Of course.
house.
Yeah, but
Okay.
they're making money off it. That's all they care about.
Right. So now here's the second thing. What are we doing today? What do you think Suboxone is? It's an opioid.
Right.
So here we go again. We don't learn from our history. All right. A lot of people, look, everything has its place. Suboxone's great for detoxing people 6, 7 days, 8 days, fine, off. Anything longer than that, they don't get off. They get freaked out. Once they get down to 1, 2 milligrams, they're done.
Yeah, I'll tell you about me a little bit. So I was an addict for 10 years of pain pills. It started with an injury in my shoulder, and
Yeah,
then
typical. Right.
yeah, and then everything just just snowballs from there. It just there's reasons to start doing more and more, and so on and so forth. So then every so often I would get clean by taking Suboxone and Xanax or Suboxone and Klonopin is what the doctors were prescribing. And then I ended up going to prison. And when I went to prison, I wasn't on opioids, or, not Percocet or Vicodin. What I was doing at that time was the Suboxone. The Suboxone, I say, was worse for me than any of the other things, and because it led me to believe that it was going to help me, that I needed it to get away from the bad thing, that was a psychological operation done to me, for everybody. That
Yeah, you bought the
now
farm.
we're
I got
dependent.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's what they're doing to people. And not only that,
yeah,
the addiction doctors all bought into it too.
yeah.
Okay. So we're not looking at how to really fix this. We're looking at how to make money from it. We're looking at treating it the same way. You know, we have a saying in the program, right? If you continue to do the same things over and over again and expecting different results, it's the definition of insanity.
Right.
So I think the medical community stopped trying to be insane and start helping people.
Yeah.
So some of the things that I became very well known in my treatment centers, I did things nobody did. And what we did is, are you familiar with hyperbaric medicine?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Hyperbaric is oxygen under pressure. It started off about 100 years ago. It was used for the bends when divers go down too far and
Okay.
they get nitrogen gas in their blood. They have to sit in this chamber for so many hours, right?
Okay.
Detoxify, and then
Right.
they can come out,
Right.
right? Well, then it was found to heal wounds. And a person, doctor that I worked with before, Dr. Paul Harch, he's really interesting if you want to write that down. He's from Louisiana, and Dr. Williamson went to the Senate and got them to approve wound healing for diabetics in the VA. Now, one of the reasons why I believe they really did that is because it cost them $70,000 to cut somebody's leg or arm off and then to rehabilitate them. And this was like cost effective and it worked. So later on, they found that not only does it heal wounds, it also heals the brain.
Oh
Now, let
wow.
me ask you a question. Do you know anybody that's going to argue with us if we say drugs and alcohol damage the brain?
No. No one's gonna deny that.
So the question I always ask doctors, what do you do for PAWS, post-acute withdrawal syndrome? All right, you've heard of that before, correct?
No, not in that sense. No.
Well, that's what happens when you're detoxing off. You go through sleep. You don't sleep. You
Right.
go through all kinds of different mental problems, and till you start balancing out again.
Right.
All right, so it's called pause. So I ask doctors, what do you do with it? They don't know. You know what they tell you? Oh, time. Yeah, okay, time. Addicts don't have time. If we're not feeling good, we're going to look to feel good.
Right.
So hyperbaric medicine, I had it in my treatment center, actually helps to heal the brain.
Wow. That's amazing.
Now, there's another piece to this. People are diagnosed with attention deficit disorder, hyperactivity disorder, bipolar disorder. Well, there's other things that mimic that. And what is it? Heavy metal toxicity. Ever heard of heavy metals?
Oh yeah, I'm actually been taking zeolite in order to detoxify my body of the heavy metals.
Right. Okay. So when you got heavy metals, it interferes with neurotransmission. So what happens is the neurotransmitters are not connecting properly. Okay. So it causes a disruption in that, and you start exhibiting these other behaviors.
Hmm.
Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense when they're spraying heavy metals in our air and in our water and our food supply, and
Got it.
we're seeing so many more people with so many more psychological, quote unquote, psychological issues of the nature that you just said, and people are taking more and more medications in order to help, and then you just look at the numbers and the statistics, and it's way higher now. The rate is way higher than it ever has been.
Okay. So I'm glad you know about that because most people don't.
Oh wow, it's
All right.
interesting.
And now the minute now you can take Colora and you can take EDTA through IVs. Okay, that's how you get rid of heavy metals. And what you do is, and people say, well, how do you know I got heavy metals? Well, you take a micronutrient test, number one, to see where your deficiencies are. And then you take a heavy metals test to see, you can do hair, you can do urine, and you can do blood. All right.
Okay.
Usually urine's pretty good coming out of your system. Hair also tells you that, and blood tells you what's in there now. So when you do that, then you see where you're at. So that's another issue that we did. We chelated people out. We tested them. We also did aromatherapy. And people go, "What do you mean aromatherapy?" Well, let me tell you something. Some like lavender and different aromas actually calm you, but people don't realize that
Right.
we're a whole person, and a lot of things affect us.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you another example. We did sound therapy and light therapy with people to help them with depression and anxiety. And people say, well, what is sound going to do? I said, you ever sit in your car and listen to music and you hear a song, all of a sudden you start tearing up
Right.
or you start laughing? What do you think it's doing? It's triggering your memories.
Right.
So sound does make a difference. And also certain decibels with sound also can heal the brain. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we did. We did acupuncture. Well, it's only been around for 5,000 years. What the hell does the Chinese know?
Right.
Then we did meditation, guided imagery with them, hypnotherapy, massage therapy. Some people, oh, massage therapy. Why, what is it? A Gucci program? I said, no. Do you realize that drugs and alcohol are in your body on a cellular level?
Right.
And you need to do what is called lymphatic drainage?
Yeah, well, our body holds on to the different
That's right.
emotions, like when we eat and drink things, and we
Right.
pull them down, and then they sit there. So the massage therapy to me makes total sense.
So then you got colonics, okay? You familiar with colonics?
Yeah.
Okay. So what happens with addicts? When people don't realize we have food in us that we had maybe a year ago. And if you look at your intestines, let's say you look at it like a pipe. You ever see a water pipe break after it's been there for years, how the crust is in the inside of the pipe? Well,
Right.
that's the same thing happens with us.
Mm.
Okay. So you got to make sure, okay, that you're eating properly. That's the key. All
Right.
right. And also colonics, what it does, it helps with the lower intestines to clean it out. And people notice the difference right away. So we
Yeah.
did that also. We did neurofeedback, biofeedback. These are all the things I did at my treatment center. People used to go, they used to look at me like he's crazy Now they asked me what the hell I was doing. Then we did amino acid therapy. Now, amino acids are the precursors, okay, to neurons in your brain. So we developed a formula, Dr. Blum did, okay, that upregulates dopamine, which is unheard of because usually medicine upregulates dopamine, not natural substances. Now, we did 15 papers on it. We did MRIs and PET scans on it, double blind studies. So we really know what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys had a more comprehensive approach, and you really went on every single level that to heal the human body, and instead of just doing one particular thing. That you were all over the scale, or I mean, all over the place. And this, these are all beautiful things by
Treating the whole
themselves.
person.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Well, here's the deal. If you go into a place to get well, you can't just look at one thing.
right,
You got to look at it because our bodies don't work like that. All right. Everything affects everything. You move one piece, you move nine. And if you ever see what addicts and what we used to eat, and then what we used to, no exercise, no spirituality, lousy food, if we ever ate to
right.
begin with, now we're
Sleep
putting
habits.
substances in our body that are destroying us. Okay. And then people will say, well, I know daddy left you with three, and this is why you're like this.
Hmm.
No, that's part of why I'm like that.
Right.
All right. But there's another piece to this. See, and that's what the problem is. We're not treating people what I call holistically. And if you look at holistically, a holism means
Hmm.
a comprehensive approach, okay, to this illness.
Yeah, that's yeah, this is the most full treatment that I've ever heard of. I've never heard of anything that uses any of the topics that you said. I haven't been to a rehab myself outside of the one I was forced to go to after prison, but I've never heard of any of these techniques being used at a rehab, and I can see why yours would sell for so much money because you were doing all of the things, and you're going to all these places to talk to people about what you were doing and how you had success. And this just seems, it's a no-brainer to me
Well,
now
you
after
know
hearing
what I
that.
did also. What I did was I talked about stuff that's in their wheelhouse.
Right,
Okay. Who's going to argue with me that if you have a low thyroid, that you don't have depression and anxiety? Nobody.
right,
Who's going to argue when you got brain damage from doing drugs? We all know it's got brain damage,
right.
Okay. Who's going to argue with that?
Yeah,
Nobody.
nobody.
And then leaky gut syndrome, H. pylori, all of the other stuff that we gather up because of the way we're living, you know. And of course, you're feeling depressed. We eat garbage. We're eating a lot of processed foods, a lot of sugars, and things like that. I've been to China many times, and I've been there 40 years ago, then 30 years, 20, and you never really see a fat Chinese person.
Right.
Not anymore. They got KFC there, Burger King, Wendy's,
Hmm.
and Chinese. They love it,
Hmm.
but they don't look the same anymore.
Yeah,
And the disease that are popping up, they never had that before.
yeah. But yeah, it's definitely all the foods that we eat, all the toxins we put in our body that can't be getting gotten out of properly.
See, and what people don't understand, you need the whole enchilada, not just a piece.
Right.
To me, I don't care if whatever works for you, that's what works for me, for you.
Right.
I all I tell you what worked for me. I went to meetings that I hated. I hated going to self-help groups. I said, I don't want to join a new religion. I'm a recovering Catholic. Enough of that. You know?
Right.
So I didn't understand because I wore glasses that were shaded to look at everything negative.
Hmm. Okay.
You
I
see?
relate
So
to
when,
that.
when you go into a meeting, you're going to spot everything that's negative. Oh, that guy's trying to pick up a girl, and this guy's doing this. You're in a place of people that are sick, doing their best to get well. I wasn't looking at the people that kept getting well and kept coming back.
Right. Just
You
looking
know,
at the negative side. That's what we do as
that's what we
humans.
do because we're
Yeah.
negative.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
we only attract what we see and what we pay attention to. I say
Right.
it all the time. When the universe, we pay attention. That's the currency that the universe understands is our attention. So if we're focusing on it, we're going to get more of it. Just like if you're to buy a Volkswagen Beetle, you're going to start seeing them all over the place. Why is that? Because it's on your mind, because you're paying attention to it.
Exactly. So let me tell you what's going to happen in the future. All right. I'm going to take you a future pace here. What addictions and depression and anxiety is going to come down to eventually without pills and all this other stuff. It's going to be called what are you familiar with CRISPR,
Yeah, the gene
gene
splicer.
editing tool?
Yeah, yeah,
That's where things are going to end up happening.
yeah. And that is to change the DNA before a child's even born, or while someone's alive, you can change it. I'm not sure exactly how it works. I just heard of it.
Well, yeah, they go into the genetic code and they manipulate it. And see, Dr. Blum developed see the gene that's the main gene. There's other genes that are involved, but the main gene is the DRD2 ALE1 variant gene, and that's the main gene that is the addiction, alcoholic gene.
Okay.
And what he developed is a gene test, but I think it's about 26 SNPs, they call them, different genes. Okay. And they find out if you have a mild, moderate, or severe propensity for addiction.
Okay.
So you can know about your kid right away. You get a 15-page report on what you could do about it, also.
Wow. So I'm guessing you're a fan of doing this.
Oh, absolutely. I
Okay.
work with him. I'm on the research team with him.
Okay.
You know.
I just want to make sure. So, but the plant medicines.
Okay,
So
let's get to that.
yeah. So is that something that you do in your treatment centers, or that you were
No, you
doing?
can't. I'd love to do it
Right.
in the treatment centers. I work with Dr. Deborah Mash. Do you know who she is?
No, I do not.
Okay, Dr. Mash is a pioneer in ibogaine. You know what ibogaine is?
Yes.
Okay, for your audience, ibogaine is a West Africa bush. Okay, that they use the Weedy tribe used as a rite of passage. What happened was, I'll give you a little history. A guy named Howard Lutzoff. You ever heard that name?
No, I have not.
Howard Lutzoff was a heroin addict who was looking for a new high. He went to Gabon in West Africa because he heard of ibogaine. And he took ibogaine and he woke up the next morning detoxed without any cravings. And he says, this is impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So he realized that he could make money from it. And he opened up a treatment center in Panama. And then he asked Dr. Mash, who's a neuromolecular scientist at the University of Miami School of Medicine. She was the head of the brain bank and the Parkinson's Foundation. And he got her to come over there, but he's an addict and he wasn't really clean mentally. And what the bottom line is, she left and opened up a detox center, ibogaine center in St. Kitts. And her and I got together because everywhere she went, my name popped up with all the crazy stuff that I do. And she says, I got to meet you because everywhere I go, everybody says, come to Giordano. So we became real good friends over 20 something years ago. And I worked for 12 or 13 years on the island of St. Kitts. Now, I know a lot of the top psychiatrists and all these guys, and I asked them to bring their worst client to us. And I said, John, we love you. I know you do all this stuff. It's really cool, but you can't detox these guys in 24 hours. It's never going to happen. I said, look, I tell you what, I got a great deal for you. If it doesn't happen exactly the way I say, I'll pay for your tickets. Okay, cost you nothing. And let's see what happens. Well, all I can tell you is this, they were in total shock. Guys coming in, scratching their face, on a nod. All right, hey man, what is this stuff? That kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 24 hours later, they come out and goes, hey, boy, I can't believe how I feel. I don't even have any cravings. And the doctor was like, what? It was like he was talking to another person.
Right.
All right. I've watched this work with hundreds and hundreds of people. So I'll bring you up to date. Dr. Mash is currently doing FDA trials right now. and she asked me to help her design the program. See, my job was to do pre and post with clients that were going into the ibogaine journey. But the problem, what happened with the ibogaine, with people, is that a lot of people that had really had good intentions, but they didn't realize that you can't just give ibogaine to anybody. Number one,
Hmm.
and number two, you have to know what's on board because there's counter indications with certain drugs that are on board, like Valiums or benzodiazepines and stuff like that. Um, and now with what do you call it, carfentanil and fentanyl, you can't do that right away. You got to wait till they titrate out a little bit because it sticks around a long time. It could cause you problems. So the way we did it is we had in Miami, we would put a heart monitor on them, not an EKG, because an EKG is just a snapshot of what's happening at that time. So we put a 24-hour heart monitor so we knew what was going on for 24 hours and how the heart goes through its different, gyrations.
Right.
And then we had it read by a clinician. And if they passed that, then we gave them blood work. And we also found out what was on board, what types of drugs. Then we brought them to the island. My job was to bring them to the island with St. Kitts. We brought them to St. Kitts and then we repeated the test. Then afterwards, I would sit them down and we would talk. I would do therapy with them and bring all the stuff to the foreground that they wanted to think about and do and change. All their traumas.
Right.
And then I would have them write it down so it stays in the memory. And then we would put them in a bed and we would put a heart monitor on them. We put an IV in their arm in case there's any kind of an event. We put eye shades on them and a headset on them to keep them in a containment field. Then we would give them a dose of ibogaine. We would wait a test dose and wait 45 minutes to see how they tolerated. And if they tolerated it, then we would give them a full dose. Some of them were out 8, 12 hours, depending if they're a fast metabolizer, slow metabolizer, and how their liver was functioning.
Hmm.
Then they would come out. I would debrief them. I would help them to see what images they saw and help them to extrapolate information out and help them to guide them onto what it all meant, all this jumbled stuff that they saw in their journey.
Right.
That was my job.
Okay.
And I still do that in 20 years, 23 years, 24 years. I'm also a traumatologist. Um, I work with guys coming back from Iraq, Afghanistan, police officers that have been in shootings. So I've done all that stuff too. Girls, women that have been raped, and so forth and so forth.
Well, so it
Uh,
sounds like you're helping out everybody who needs help, no matter what the issue is.
but it doesn't matter. It doesn't.
Right.
What I did was I went to college, and when I went to school, I was studying. Um, what do you call it? To be a mental health counselor. All right. I opened the book and I looked at the date that it was published. It was about 7 years old. So it's already outdated.
Right.
Now, by the time I finished school, it's worthless.
Mm-hmm.
So I says, I'm not doing this. So what I did was I became a hypnotherapist. I became an NLP, a master's in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. I do holotropic breathing. I do I'm a criminal justice specialist. I do mitigation work also. I do a lot of stuff.
Sounds like it.
You know, I figured this way: you only can take people as far as you take yourself.
That's a really good point.
And spirituality is the foundation of everything we do anyway. Not religion, spirituality.
Yeah,
Learn
I
to be
feel that
kind
as
instead
well.
of right. Do your best not to lie, cheat, or steal, or to
Mm-hmm.
hurt yourself or other human beings. Reach out and help somebody less fortunate than you. Things like that.
Right.
Simple things like that. You know?
So the part of the trip of the ibogaine, seeing the different things. Now I've heard that there's different doctors that are trying to take that part away in order to then make it an actual pharmaceutical industry thing that they can capitalize off of. Is that a main necessity of the trip
Okay.
to heal
See,
yourself?
well, that's where I disagree with I love Dr. Mash, but we agree and we don't agree. There's such a thing as noribogaine. when the body metabolizes the ibogaine, it goes into a molecule called noribogaine that houses itself on the opioid receptor sites. Now, like I said, depending if you're a fast metabolizer or a slow metabolizer, it depends on that. And what happens is you can go for anywhere from 30 to 90 days without any cravings.
Wow.
All right.
And
Now, what the problem is that what they're trying to do is take that molecule and instead of having that journey, that psychedelic journey, to just take the molecule and have people do that so they don't have cravings and they don't have relapses during that time. But my own personal bias about that is I believe that they should have everything because what they have when they go into that journey is they have what is known as a cathartic experience.
mhm,
They have a resolution about all their traumas,
mhm.
or most of their traumas anyway, that come out.
Yeah, I feel it's so necessary, and I feel that if you take that part away, then it's not as effective. And I feel
I
like,
don't think they really know yet
yeah,
if
and they
it is
call it
or isn't.
hallucinogens, which I don't like the word hallucinogens. It's not a hallucination, something that you're imagining. This is something that's actually happening with inside the human body, inside the human mind. This is
Right.
an
Well,
actual thing happening.
I did every drug known to man. I did peyote. I did mescaline. I've done ibogaine. The only thing I haven't done is ayahuasca, which I know what ayahuasca. Now, ayahuasca, if you do on the level from, let's say, 10 is the top of the food chain, okay? Ayahuasca is about a 7 or an
Hmm.
8,
Right.
all right? Ibogaine is a 10.
Yeah, that Ibogaine's the only one that I haven't tried, and I didn't need it, so that's why I didn't do it. Psilocybin mushrooms really helped me. Uh,
I've
once I
done mushrooms. I remember doing mushrooms. We used to make a tea out of it, right?
okay.
And we did the mushrooms. I never forget one time I went to, this is what I was using, of course. We went to Disney World and the flowers were talking and dancing and we were laughing like crazy. And everybody's going, what are these guys on? And it was like hysterical. But
Right,
you know what the problem is with these plant medicines, okay? They're really not meant for that,
right,
okay? They're very sacred. They're sacred
right,
drugs.
exactly.
And you have to treat them with reverence. And not that you do them all the time. That's not what it's for. Okay. See, most addicts don't want to work, so they want to keep doing the drug because, oh, I got some insights. Well, look, knowledge is power. I agree. But without action is worthless.
Yeah, I'd say the most that anyone needs it is 4 times a year, every 90 days or so would be the most that I would, and I'm not recommending that to any listeners or anything. This is no medical advice, but I wouldn't, a lot of people want to keep doing them. And that's how I was for a period of time when I was trying all the different psychedelics. I did a lot of them in a short amount of time, and it took me a while to integrate because I learned so much, but then I realized like, oh no, I'm here. I'm a physical being. I have to do the physical things to make myself happy. I
Well, that's
can't
why I say you
do the
don't need them.
drugs.
Believe it or not, you don't need them 4 times a year.
Yeah, yeah. I
If you
agree.
do it, if you do it once, maybe twice, okay, the
Yeah.
most, okay, is because there is so much integration happening and so much knowledge happening,
Right.
okay, that you can't possibly put it all together, okay? If you keep on getting more, your brain only can handle so much. You got to
Hmm.
put it to action.
Right.
You know, it's like I tell addicts, I say, look, if you want to build your self-esteem, there's an easy way to do it, right? And I'll tell you how I suggest. First of all, us addicts always break our word, not only to people, to ourselves as well.
Mm.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to
Absolutely.
do it. We never do it.
Right.
Okay. Or we do it half assed. Right.
Right.
I say, look, here's what you do. Get up in the morning and say, I'm going to make my bed every morning and I'm going to make it as best I can. Just
Yeah.
that. Just do that every morning and be consistent.
Accomplishing goals.
There you go. And you build on that. See, the way you build self esteem, okay, see, the way you get low self esteem is by not keeping your word, by not really doing the things that you're supposed to do,
Hmm.
by hanging on to the past and just living there instead of being where your feet are. And in order to increase your self esteem, you have to do things that you become successful at. even just making your bed.
Right.
And then
Exactly.
you go forward and forward. Like I did a group the other day, and they were all running down to smoke cigarettes. I said, look, those are death sticks. I used to smoke them. I know. I used to take my cigarette, smoke my cigarette, hit the heavy bag. I mean, you know how much it's as sick as they come.
Yeah, I used to smoke
And
13
I said,
years.
look, nicotine's a drug. It's the hardest one for addicts to give up. It's amazing. Okay. I says, my kids helped me with that. When I got out of treatment, I was clean about 4 or 5 months. And my kids said I was smoking my cigarettes. And they said, Daddy, now you're not going to die from drugs, but you're going to die from cancer from cigarettes. Little kids. I don't even know where they got it from, probably TV.
Hmm.
And I said, you know what? They're right. I took the cigarettes, threw them away. And I did Nicorette gum for 6 days. And I haven't smoked in 36 years.
Wow. Yeah, I
So,
was a smoker for 13 years and I quit. I was using sunflower seeds to chew on and I would have the patch and I only used it like 2 weeks and then I was all good to go.
well, you look at it this way. Look, I would still be doing drugs if it wasn't killing me and destroying my life,
Right.
right?
Right.
Well, why would you destroy your life with another drug called nicotine? Oh, yeah,
Exactly.
but I don't go to jail for smoking. No, no, you're already in jail because you're a prisoner of the nicotine.
Exactly. Yep.
And I said, if you don't believe me, stop for 2 weeks. Oh, I can't do that. Well, there you go. You're a prisoner, and I'm not even let you out on probation.
Well, what do you think about caffeine as coffee? Do you
Okay,
think
let's look at caffeine. All right. If you abuse caffeine, it's like anything, it isn't any good.
right?
Caffeine helps with a lot of things too, and it also hurts with some things. Listen, I look at life as a balancing act. You have to learn. Do I drink caffeine? Absolutely. Do I use it to get energy and to get up in the morning? Absolutely not. I
That's
like the
the
taste. That's it.
Yeah, that's the perfect thing right there because that's what I did. I realized that I was addicted to coffee. This is after, I freed myself from addiction, all the other addictions, and then I was like, "Oh, I have to quit coffee." So I quit for a month. And then I was like, after the month was up, I was like, you know what? I like the taste. I'm not going to drink it right away first thing in the morning. First thing in the morning, I'll drink water to get myself awake, and then I'll have some coffee
Well,
because I
that's
like the
another thing.
taste.
You need to drink water the first thing when you get up in the morning.
16
Okay,
ounces is
that's very
recommended.
important.
Right.
Right. Then if you look, it's all about intent. What is your intent? Oh, my intent is I got to take this coffee so I can come alive. Well, why aren't you alive to begin with? Now you're
Exactly.
medicating yourself.
Hmm.
You were doing that with drugs, so now you turned the coffee into a drug for yourself.
Right. Yeah, that's so right. I do have one more question for you here,
Sure.
before we wrap things up. What is your view on microdosing?
Of what?
Microdosing, say mushrooms. If you microdose,
Okay. I Look. It's like medical marijuana. They're abusing that. Now, marijuana has good medical things that they can do for people. But a lot of people getting medical marijuana just so they can get high. All
yeah.
right. So now microdosing for what reason? What you're trying to
Well,
do is
and
a shortcut.
yeah, well, so instead of getting that one big trip, is there a way where you can? So this is what when I
Oh, I
watched
see
that
what you're saying.
video.
No, I don't believe in that. No.
Okay.
Hey man, I'm an addict. I want to go for the gusto. All
Yeah,
right.
I agree with that. It was just came into my mind when the doctors are saying in that Al Jazeera video when they're saying we're trying to take away the trip like well if you just microdosed then that takes away the trip and you can still get some of the healing effects from it but
Yeah,
it's
but
not in
no,
the same
no.
way.
The healing is not taking the drugs, and that's the mistake
Okay.
people.
Okay.
The healing is the information you get and the application you do with that information. That's the healing. Like, for instance, if you want to know what kind of person you are, look at the people you're hanging out with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Simple. I used to hang out with drug dealers, robbers, thieves, hitmen, all kinds of people, right? Now I only know police officers, therapists, psychiatrists, doctors.
Yeah, it's
It's this is the story. Okay. We don't that plant medicine is a gift from the creator. But we abuse everything and we make up these scenarios where it's okay to do.
I agree with that.
What it is, it's a learning process. And if you don't get it the first time around, means you're not supposed to get it.
Okay. That makes sense.
You know? And the bottom line is you have to put stuff in action. We know how to heal ourselves. We just don't apply it because we look at it as work instead of as your life.
Right.
Listen, I'm coming up on 37 years of recovery. Oh my God. If you would have told me that when I started, I probably would have punched you in the mouth thinking you're making fun of me.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know where the creator or God, whatever it has in mind for you. Here I am, a multimillionaire now, and I used to be homeless, living on in a little room where my kids used to cry.
That's amazing. It seems like God put you through all that trauma so that you could help so many different people.
I thought I
You're,
was cursed when I was a kid
yeah.
because I was sexually abused. I had everything happen to you that you could possibly want to happen to you. Right? I even went to a priest and said, if you could take the evil out of me, and he says, 10 Hail Marys and 5 Our Fathers, and you'll be fine. I mean, I says I'm cursed, but I was blessed. I could talk to anybody about anything.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
there's no shame in my game. I'm not
Yeah.
ashamed to say, if you get my book, The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up, it tells my whole story. It's like doing a fourth step. Are you familiar with that, right?
A fork step?
Yeah, in the program and AAA, no?
No, I'm
Okay.
not familiar.
Fourth step is where you talk about all your emotional dramas and your life and your history and all the stuff you don't want to tell anybody.
Oh, okay.
Well, I put it in a book.
Yeah.
And
I
I
do
wrote
that
the
for my
book to help
podcast.
motivate people to show them, listen, my father was a heroin dealer. My uncle was a hitman. Matter of fact, my uncle killed a caterer at my wedding because he insulted him.
Oh,
You
wow.
see it in the book. All right. There's all kinds of things in there that happened to me in my life and how I overcame them and how I winded up where I am today, wherever that
Wow.
is.
Well, it sounds like it's been a ride, and it sounds like you're in the most beautiful spot that you never could imagine.
Never in a million years. Me giving a lecture to scientists? Are you kidding me? Writing books? I couldn't even spell. Now they got spell check. I'm okay. You know? I mean,
That's a very high honor to be able to go talk to scientists, have scientists want to hear what you have to say, to tell them about their field of expertise in, or what's supposed to be their field of expertise in healing or helping heal humanity.
it's crazy. I
Yeah.
mean, it's absolutely crazy. I'm talking to hundreds of countries, scientists and researchers, and none of them, you see, like you said, I never heard of this stuff. They
Right.
said the same thing. That's why when I lecture one place, they want me to lecture in another place.
I could
They
see
said, this
why.
stuff has got to get out.
Yeah, this is never, I'm clean now 6 years, and nothing of this sort has even come. I haven't heard any of this stuff at all while I was an addict, while being an addict, or since being an addict. None of this stuff, and this needs to get out to everybody.
Absolutely. You need to take probiotics, prebiotics, and enzymes. Very important.
Okay.
Okay. Probiotics is the seed, prebiotics is the rain that helps the seed grow.
Okay.
All
And you
right.
recommend that for everybody, or is this for people at?
Everybody,
Okay.
everybody. And then stay away from processed foods.
Okay.
Okay. Limit the sugar intake and salt.
Okay.
Simple stuff, not rocket science. If you look, garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
And let me tell you, I'm 75 tomorrow. I don't take any medications. I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have diabetes. I still fight. I work out 5 days a week, sometimes four. Do I eat right? No, I don't eat perfect, but I do the best I can. Uh, I'm in great shape. I'm in better shape than guys that are 30.
Yeah.
So
You
it's
seem
all,
like
listen, I don't tell people, do as I say, not as I do.
right.
I don't, black shit never worked for me. I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
And this is who I am. So spread the word. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
And get the
absolutely.
book, The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up.
Yeah, it
Or
looks
the
like
other
I gotta
one,
get that book.
How to Beat Your Addiction and Live a Quality Life.
Okay. Yeah, that's excellent. The way I like to end the show is I like to ask my guests what their favorite grounding technique is and what their favorite relaxation activity is. You going through everything you went through, what keeps you grounded, especially as spiritual as you are. I know we haven't got into all that deeply into it, but still, you're very spiritual, I can tell. So, what are the things that keep you grounded as a human, and what are the things that make you relaxed when you're having a stressful time, a tough time?
Doing God's work, helping other addicts and alcoholics.
Okay.
Uh, I meditate, and my wife and I, we pray every day.
That's beautiful.
And people say, "Well, I don't believe in God." I said, "It's okay." I say, "Look at it this way, all right? God to me is good, orderly direction. Whatever God is up there, all right. I look at it this way: when I die, there's nobody up there. Okay, I made a mistake. But if I die and somebody is there, you made the mistake. I don't want to be you."
That's well, to make God is everything. So
We're God. It's
exactly.
inside of us.
Yeah, exactly. That is the truth. Do you want to tell my listeners where they can find you at?
Yep. Let them go to John, the letter J, Giordano.com, Giordano.com. And if you want to contact me, all right, if you get the book that I told you, my cell number is on there.
Oh wow.
Well, you can't help people that can't get in touch with you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on. This was such
Thank you for
an
having me.
yeah, absolutely. I would have you on a million more times. You seem like one of the most interesting guys with so many different things that you could talk about. I mean, I'm so honored to have you on here, and I want to again give you my thanks for coming out. Mimi, do you have any last thing?
I don't right now.
Okay, yeah,
Well,
Mimi's feeling
next
a little
time we
under the
could talk
weather.
about stem cells, exosomes, and peptides.
Oh, that exosomes that is very much interests me.
I take exomes,
Okay,
and I also do stem cells,
okay.
and I also do peptides.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll have to link up again sometime in the near future.
Yeah,
You got it.
I'd
And
love
I have a
to do that.
hyperbaric chamber in my house.
Oh, well. Yeah, I definitely want to get one of those.
Yeah.
All right. I want to say goodbye to our audience, and of course, I'll have all the links in the description. Thank you all for coming out, and we will talk to you later. Bye.